Hey guys, what's going on? Back again with another video. So I want to make a video connecting Transit and Mars. It's something that came up recently with some of the other zombie YouTubers. So I wanted to kind of maybe make a solve or maybe even like a theory video. So as you guys know, for probably over a decade now, we've always thought that maybe Shangri-La was on Mars. There's been a couple of hints, a lot of theories from zombie YouTubers, and then a lot of theories from the zombies community. Because of the loading screen, it looks like it's set on Mars, and if you play the game during the eclipse, it looks like it's one of Mars' moons. So that's kind of where it's been for the last few years. We got some type of new clarification during Black Ops 4 and Tag Daytona, which I'm not going to really touch on too much of the Mars stuff. This is more, as you can tell by the title, going to try and connect Transit to Mars because, like I said, Glitching Queen made a video a few weeks ago where she's figured out or solved that there's some Mars craters in the loading screen area or the menu for Black Ops 2, stuff that we haven't noticed for the last couple of years since Black Ops 2 came out, which is probably about already 11 years now. So the whole Shangri-La thing is even further back from that. I think it's probably around maybe 2010 is when Black Ops 1 came out in Shangri-La, and a lot of theories because of one of the photos that showed up in the files was labeled Mars, and it looks like it's one of Mars Mountain. And then Jimmy tweeted about it and kind of ran with that story, and that's kind of what I'm agreeing with that Glitching Queen said. A lot of the Mars stuff ended up showing up, as you'll see in Black Ops 2, because it was kind of what the zombies community and zombie YouTubers kind of noticed and kind of wanted some type of Mars connection. There's a lot of Mars stuff in Black Ops 2, but this again is just going to be more about Transit. And then as you look at Nuketown, like I said, Glitching Queen found some craters in one of the map menus that looks like it's the craters from or matches up to the craters on Mars. And really quickly, I'm not going to dive into it because it's something that literally just happened minutes ago, and I actually DM'd Glitching Queen about it, and I'm going to probably explain it to her better when she responds. If you look at both loading screens, they actually kind of match up a little bit. You have the tornado slash drill on the left, and the drill on this part, the tornado on that part, and it's kind of like doing the same thing, sucking up something or maybe bringing it back. So maybe it's alternate dimensions, maybe a multiverse. But if you look at it, you got a drill on the left, tornado on the left, a drill on the left, and then on the right hand side, the smoke kind of looks like exactly where the plants are. So maybe it's just kind of subliminal, showing you where how it's supposed to maybe be in the same parallel, because like I said, Glitching Queen just figured out and solved that it is kind of set on Mars. But with that being said, that's just some of the backstory about Mars. What you also have to know, jumping around and trying to give how everything all fits perfectly, Origins, which is the final DLC for Black Ops 2, is based on a Twilight Zone episode called Little Lost Girl or Little Girl Lost. And then in Black Ops 2, the main Easter egg quest is called Little Lost Girl. When you solve the Easter egg and finish the game, you get that achievement. It's the same exact story. It's about a girl that's lost in another dimension, kind of like our story. Samantha's lost in the ether, or Agartha, and we're trying to free her from Agartha. It's the same story, and it's the same story that they use for Poltergeist, and that's another reason why I do this, is to kind of show people how through the decades, everything takes inspiration or homage from stuff before it. A lot of devs use stuff from their childhood, their favorite movies, books, comics. You guys should know that by now. It's been something I've been saying for the last almost 5 years at least. So just to give some context, that Origins, and if you look at the episode, the Twilight Zone episode, you see how the kids are playing with toys, and you see like the Origins robots. You see the girl, I think, has a Mauser, like a World War I Mauser that she's playing with, or there's, I think it's this episode that the girl is playing with a Mauser, which is like World War One, the same starting pistol that we have in Origins. The little girl gets trapped. I think there's a portal that opens up in her bedroom, behind her bed set or headset or whatever. and she ends up going into that portal and getting lost in Argartha. Same exact thing as Origins. We actually don't see that part though. We see it more like I guess something happened with World War One, and they messed around with 115, and it opened up portals and stuff like that. So you do see some of this in this episode, and I probably talked about too much or more than that I thought I was going to talk about, but I have to set up where I'm going with this so you understand how, again, how Treyarch and the devs do Easter eggs. So there's a Twilight Zone episode called "Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up?" and it's the exact story that they used for Transit. Or I know Transit is taken through or kind of thought up of a lot of different stuff in pop culture, and that's how they made the maps, and they still make it. They're not necessarily taking one thing from pop culture. They're taking maybe at least a dozen things from pop culture and mashing it all together and creating the maps. Like I said, they probably have like a dozen devs working on it, and each devs brings something to the table that they love that they want to add into the map. So for Transit, you'll see that this is the episode it looks like they used. Again, the other hint being Origins was taken from a Twilight Zone episode. So it looks like everything, or a lot of the stuff from Transit was also taken from a Twilight Zone episode called "Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up?" And Glitching Queen asked the other day, what's the connection between Transit and Mars? Is Transit set on Mars? And I didn't really respond because I didn't have an answer. I said, not that I know of, but then funny enough, I just happen to have the TV on, and that's going to sound like BS. It's going to sound like I have inside information or I know the devs and I'm leaking information, which I don't. It literally was just a coincidence. I happened to have the TV on and I saw the episode, and I'm like, wait, this all makes sense now. So I Googled the episode and it had this name to it, and it all kind of makes sense how a lot of stuff on Black Ops 2 is set or based around Mars. So what you'll see first is our diner is called the North Highway Diner, which is pretty iconic in video games now and even back then. I know Transit got a lot of hate because I think it was just, and I've said it before, I went on the record to say Transit was just a little bit more difficult because of a lot of reasons. So anything that's difficult exposes bad players, exposes bad YouTubers. I mean, people love it now because there's mods and hacks and all that stuff, and that you can use to play the game, and it makes the game a lot easier. But bare bones Transit, no hacks, no cheats. It's difficult, and you know that the steps are difficult. I mean, people can complete it in like a short amount of time, but back then it was just way too difficult. The fog, the denizens attacked you. There was literally almost no wonder weapon because the jet gun isn't really a wonder weapon. It's just something used for the main quest. You get the ray gun. The pack-a-punch is hard to open up. And then on top of it, the weapons were pretty bad back then. I don't know what gun. I think maybe the Galil might have been the best weapon. The Mark II ray gun you end up getting down the road a couple DLCs later. But Transit got a lot of hate because it was difficult. But anyways, with that being said, in the Twilight Zone episode, same exact episode that has to do with Mars, the name of the cafe is called the Highway Diner. And it's the same exact story where there's a couple passengers on a bus and they're taking the bus around town or trying to travel somewhere, but there's a big snowstorm. I don't know if maybe the fog I mean, it's totally opposite and I'm probably stretching it, but I don't know if the fog is supposed to maybe imitate the snow, because if you go into Transit, you see, you know, the ashes and the sparks flying around. I don't know if that's supposed to subtly hint the snowstorm that the Twilight Zone episode has, because if you go into Transit now and you look up, you see, if you look at the sparks and the ashes and the fire, you can probably say, hey, maybe it looks like it's a snowstorm, but instead of a snowstorm, so they don't get in trouble, let's use fire to mimic almost like you're caught in a blizzard, because it's the same exact story how these passengers on their bus, I mean, that's exactly why we have a Transit bus, is they're on a bus and they end up stopping at the diner, and what happens is, same thing in Transit, there's a UFO, because if you listen to the dialogue in Transit, there's talk about UFO, and the Avogadro is the alien, I think, that crashed. I think back then it was an alien that they captured that crashed from a UFO that they held underground. Um, Not the Avogadros that you're thinking of for Alpha Omega. Forget all that, because that was a whole different retcon of the story, or an alternate reality story. Think about Black Ops 2 Transit, how um, it was a captured alien that they kept inside this thing. I don't think there was any story about it being created by Broken Arrow or anything like that. If you go to the dialogue and you listen to it, it's basically was a captured alien, and if you go to certain parts of the map, you can hear, even in the damned Black Ops 2 damned version, you hear the UFO flying around. If you play with some of the characters, they talk about UFOs, and it's the same exact story that happens in the Twilight Zone episode. There's a crashed UFO, an alien is loose, so all the passengers are trying to figure out who the alien is. And again, that's their bus. We have our own bus. It's the Highway Diner. They have the Highway Cafe. These are the passengers on the bus. Same exact thing as Transit. Here's the bus driver on the right, which is the same, looks kind of almost the same bus driver. Same era, same look, same everything as the Transit bus driver. Again, this is their bus. It's almost even two-tone like the Transit. Hanford site buses are two-toned. Here's the bus driver again. Almost looks the same. I don't think anybody's gonna argue. He has the same. I know it's gonna say pointy nose, and then people are gonna say, well, all noses are pointy. But if you look at the nose and even the mouth, it's kind of all the same. The hat's the same. I mean, the outfit's a little bit different, but this is the bus driver. So you get to kind of see the real life version of Ted, I guess, before. And it's the same thing too in the story. There's a bridge. I know in Transit you go over the bridge and it breaks, and then Ted starts saying we're all gonna die, and it's the same thing. They're like, hey, you gotta stay at the diner. Don't go out in the snowstorm. The bridge is out. You know, the cop is telling the driver and the passengers, don't go out there. The bridge is out. The bridge is gonna collapse. And spoiler alert, the bridge does collapse and they all die. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like maybe Russman, Stuhlinger, and Marlton, and Misty are all in the afterlife. They're already dead. Maybe they died in the bus crash. Who knows exactly where Transit was going, because a lot of it got cut. Here's the bus driver. Here's the diner owner, or the guy that works at the diner. Now, like I said, a lot of people don't realize that the Shadow Man and Shadows of Evil is a Jimmy Zielinski thing. It was taken, a lot of the Black Ops 3 stuff was Jimmy's ideas, and then ultimately Jason took over, added a lot of Mob of the Dead stuff in there, connected it to Mob of the Dead. So the guy obviously looks like the Shadow Man, looks exactly like the Shadow Man, and he ends up being the Martian slash almost evil villain. The Martians want to take over Earth. The guy who works at the diner is from another planet, which I'm not going to get into because it doesn't really fit into the story. And the last thing I want to say is the fact that the guy that looks like the Shadow Man, his name is not Russman, not Russ, but Ross. So that's probably where they got Russman from instead of R-U-S-S. The real name was R-O-S-S. His name was Ross, and he was a Martian. So I don't know if it was going to reveal that somehow Russman was going to be the alien or was an alien, maybe. I know NGT Zombies came up with a funny idea that on the ground it says stop Russman or stop Ross. Instead of bus stop, it looked like it said stop Russ. So it was probably where they were going, because maybe somehow Russman was going to end up being the Shadow Man or the evil villain. I know when you look at the Shadow Man, he has the gloves and the outfit like Russman. But like I said, a lot of it got cut. The whole Jimmy, Jason stuff happened. A lot of stories got switched. So maybe at one point Russman was going to turn into the Shadow Man, or we were going to find out. I know a lot of it obviously got changed. but his name is Ross instead of Russ, so that's probably where they got Russman from, and that's why he doesn't have a last name, or he didn't know who he was. It's the same thing with the Martian. The Martian is a little bit foggy. He doesn't really know too much because he's not from this planet, so that could be the same reason why Russman was a little bit foggy. He couldn't remember stuff because he was probably the alien that crashed to Earth. But again, I tell Glitching Queen this all the time. Unfortunately, we'll never know any of these answers. The only way we'll know this is by chance we were one of the ones that were invited to Treyarch and got the behind the scoop from Jason and the other devs, because I've seen some of the zombie YouTubers that have told us secrets that nobody's known about. Um, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Again, you can watch it. You can kind of see the episode for yourself. I'll see you guys later.